Action.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August regular Board of Education meeting for the Horsehead Central School District. In addition, tonight is the approval of the tax warrant for the Horsehead Central School District for upcoming unfortunate tax season that is there for every school district in the municipality. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we start tonight's meeting, we want to remind you that our meetings are monthly posted on our website, as well as going out on Twitter and Instagram. At that point, you can choose to follow us. There are no comments there. It's more for notification to enjoy and hopefully have people participate, but you also have the ability to participate from your homeroom because we broadcast this live at every one of our meetings. So I want to thank you for coming out at this time. I turn it over to the board president, Ms. Christine Dale.
All right, good evening, everybody. Can you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up on our agenda is approval of our minutes, items 2.01 through 2.03. Can I have a motion, please? So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Now's the time in our agenda where if we have anybody from the community that has any questions or comments, I invite you to come up to the podium, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board with comments or questions that you have. So I'll open it up now if there's anybody who wants to speak. Okay, just a reminder to anybody out in the community, you are always invited to come to a board meeting. We always have the public comment section at the beginning. Our public comment section really is for us to have the opportunity to listen to you, not necessarily a two-way dialogue. If it is appropriate to answer a question, we will do so, or we'll be able to table it to a later time. You can also contact the board through emailing the district clerk, and our district clerk will get that information to the board and be able to provide you with additional information. So we do welcome comments and questions from community members at any time.
If I may add also, if you did wish to email the board through the district clerk, that email address is on the website under the Board of Education page, so you can go there, as well as the board. I just came from a leadership event where we will be bringing to our policy committee some updates on community participation statements and procedures for the board to consider to make it a little easier for responses back as well.
Next up on our agenda is the report from our student representative, which that will start at our September meeting. And we're looking forward to our new representatives for the 2022-2023 school year. So moving on to item 5, our superintendent report.
Thank you, President Dale. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but we do have a few items to need to cover. One of the items is the fact that we have a presentation schedule coming up for our Board of Education meetings for the year. We have tried to articulate that it would be over some of the Horsehead's 2030 initiatives as we come out of COVID-19 and return to a more normal school year like last year, but even stronger. At this time, I'd like to ask Tony to come forward and just give sort of a draft outline of that and any thoughts or emphasis from the board for us to consider as we modify and then bring that to September. But our first presentation is already set.
Yes, so in front of you, you'll see a list of, again, tentative because depending upon any conversations or presentations that might be happening through the school year, these aren't married to the dates that you'll see them associated with. More important is the timeline to which you see them and the relative aspect of the work that we do. So much upfront on some of the academics, kind of taking that academic goal that has been drafted and to talk about that in a larger scope and the work that we do and how we're moving forward. We'll recap recap of the 2030 work that we've done and to show where we've been now post-pandemic, where we're heading with that work and what that looks like now that we're getting through that part of our I guess hopefully part of that part of our work, for that societal issue. Next, you'll see multi-tier system of supports is a system to which many are familiar with RTI and AIS. It's very specific to academics. Multi-tier takes into consideration social, emotional, and your behavioral. So tying those three together, you'll see a diagram to the right there. This is the place New York State is heading. Their roadmap has been, pushed down the line over the last 2 years. Many states have already incorporated these aspects. We are working currently with some people that organized the Massachusetts roadmap for MTSS. So this is learning that's been going on for about 3 years. We want to inform the board where we're heading with this work and how we're bringing this work together with our system. So we want to just talk about some of the academic achievements. New York State is saying we're going to get back to our accountability standards, so you'll see that in the next meeting after we do the overview. Some of our New York State test data, some of the big picture data sets that we use, and what it means for accountability. This would be reminiscent of those that might remember maybe 7, 8 years ago, we used to have some data presentations at board meetings, kind of just went over the 30,000 foot. That would be this type of enter into accountability standards. But they're not assessments for learning, kind of just big picture. Next, we see the important work we're doing in our social emotional. The board has afforded us the positions from the school counselor, the IS, to the social workers with master's level, the work that they're doing and how that is being worked into this umbrella. On to that will be behavior and tiered interventions and make it more systemic. It's not that we're not doing these things, it's just having a system in place and understanding what each level is doing and how we're tiering our work. Moving forward from that, we want to get into the weeds a little bit on some of the more specific initiatives that we have going on from our math and our ELA and our phonics and updating the board on that. And then moving into possibly the mid-year retreat, some learning and some awareness of our benchmark, our diagnostic testing, those assessments that we use on a regular basis, our screeners, and then also the formative, summative, and most importantly, performance tasks that we're working in our units. So more of the regular assessments, not necessarily accountability. After that, we get into a budget season, so we'll have to talk about what folds in and where. We do know we want to talk about our technology and what we're doing there, especially with our initiatives as we move forward the one-to-one. Remember that from our ARP and SIRSA funding, that being an initiative of the district. We're going to the high school one-to-one. By then, we'll have a good idea of where that's landing and what the next following years look like. So you'll see that follow next, as well as our implementation of our new learning management system. And then as we go through, part of MTSS, and something that's been talked about quite extensively, is parent engagement and school and community collaboration. That is part of the MTSS structure, and we'd like to talk about at that point in spring where we are on that as a system and as a district as a whole. And I know we'll have ongoing conversations there. And then end with where we're heading as a roadmap moving into next year and some accountability and what we're looking to achieve as a system, academic, social, emotional, as well as behavioral tiering. That was probably a lot more than you wanted, but I'd like to tell a story and a picture of why we chose what we're doing and make sure you see what our intent is. So with that.
Now, I know we've just given that to you. If by any chance we're missing something, data would be interwoven. The big thing is that our data for the districts has been on a 2 to 3 year hiatus, so to speak, not just because of COVID, but because the state has gone from Common Core to Next Gen standards. You still have an opt-out movement out there that the state's data is relatively flawed when you look at it psychometrically. And the reason being is that it doesn't assess all the students in all their levels. It makes inferences about just a very smaller subset when there's somewhere between 20 to 25% of students that are not being tested. That does not mean that we can't learn from some of that data, but our in-house data, that's what we're trying to gear towards, is reestablishing the baseline so that we can address the learning, how would you say, not learning loss, because if they didn't do the learning, it couldn't get lost, but the learning slowdown because of what we've gone through COVID-19 and the status that we've been in. But that is how we are going to start addressing it coming out. Is that fair to say, Kim?
Yes, I think in that, definitely some comparability data with other districts and other areas as we've met with BOCES, nicely paint a picture and show, plus using some of the Forecast 5 and some of the data we have available through there in comparison districts to paint a bigger picture.
But if the board has anything or thinks we're missing something or just not knowing, please just send me a quick message and I'll get a response back and try to give you better context. Or we will adjust our plan. If there's anything you see right now, please let me know.
So I think this is great, having this roadmap for the year, and obviously we'll be flexible as we need to. I look forward to having Sean and his data energy present some of this. I love when he presents data. But the only thing that I would, and maybe it's already in the back of your head, but as you're going through some of this stuff where appropriate, being able to weave in some of those leading practices that you're seeing in the schools. So, when you do the social and emotional, if we have a school that just had a really great experience or something that either is working really well or hasn't worked well, that they can share. And not hitting every school with every presentation, but just pulling those nuggets to be able to share, I think would be nice throughout all of these as appropriate.
Absolutely. The principals already here have already started to volunteer for this.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too.
I see some really excited people in the gallery.
We've already, they've seen parts of this and understand that moving forward, they're anxious to show you what they're doing in these aspects of work.
Yeah, and I mean, and it also gives us an opportunity, particularly if we had just heard about something at a board meeting, and then when we do the school tours, to be able to say, okay, you just heard about this, and now we're going to show you it in action type of thing, to be able to try to tie that together too when we do our semi-annual tours. I think this is great. I love it. Thank you.
Sorry. I think it's great too to have one area that comes to mind, which may already be sort of viewed throughout, but to just put it out there, is I think it would be helpful to have at some point kind of a comprehensive review of the instructional / academic programs that the district participates in. So we kind of talk about these in different places, like PTEC, and there's New Visions, and there's CTE, and what and those programs. I think kind of an assessment of our course offerings at a high school level. How do we compare to neighboring districts? Should we be thinking of courses that we don't currently have that are kind of leading edge and others are doing? So that piece too would be helpful, I think, to see as we go through this. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and again, I would say by Friday at the latest, if you have anything, please just send emails. That way we'll work on trying to organize that before the start of school and all the new teachers show up on Monday. So we'll go from there. In addition, I've given the board members a draft of the exhibit that the district sets for fee services for outside agencies, the operations and so forth. We've tried, both Mike, Katie, and I have tried to look at other districts comparable, making sure that we're not way out one way or another, but we do have several new avenues that the community will want to start using, lights at night, field, and so forth, and we have to be good stewards, but we also have to make sure that it's not being taxing on the actual budget. So this is the fee structure. It's similar to what we've had, but there's several updates in it. If you see anything or have questions, again, by Friday, please get that to us. We will do the exhibit, and we're going to transfer the exhibit to a regulation, because it's really a regulation. The exhibit is the form at the end, and administratively, we'll put that in place for the beginning of the school. So no time, if you have any questions, please feel free to come back during board reports. But right now, we don't need anything. We just wanted to give you that so that you can see what we're doing. Okay. The other part is that, we can discuss later in the end of board forum, is last year we made every event free. We are now open fully, and we talked about, we just built this first year and make it free. Every school does their charging, so we are returning to the charging for our contests or our events. We aren't in in control of regional, sectional, and so forth. So I'd like to have the board just give me some ideas, and we can talk about this later, about home contests. We are looking at anything inside a gymnasium and anything inside our stadium as being entry and charge. We would also I'd probably challenge Charles how we can look at not a season pass, but a whole year pass as well, because we aren't trying to get tons of money, but we're also trying to use the money that goes into the general fund, and then we can target it for different things, either the capital reserve for stadium replacement or other things, possibly support of the athletic program or the music program, because the music program will have their first major show as well. So I just want the board to be aware of that as you can talk about it, but I know Mr. Conklin had a question. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to see us at least for one more year not charge. The community has supported $200 million in spending. I believe we can give them some games for gratis. I think last year, when the stadium opened for football, it was packed virtually every home game, more than I've seen in 20 years of a football game, to be honest. So I thought that was a really positive thing. Secondly, if I'm going to be outvoted and there's going to be, well, if, maybe others have the same thought I do, what fees are we talking about? Because when we were in the extracurricular activity, athletics, if we're going to go to electronic sign-up for tickets, the last I knew, that company was taking $1 for every ticket sold. So that means student tickets minimally go to $1, adult tickets minimally go, you might have an idea it will even be higher than that, I don't know. But I'd like to see at least one more year free.
Yeah, in regards to the ticket pricing, I don't know where that is yet, honestly. I haven't had a conversation. I know most are doing $5 adult, $3 student, but you also have to take that dollar off of those tickets. Sectionals, I think, is now 6 and 4. They've done the same thing, and then regionals are 10, states are 15. Certainly understand that. I don't have a problem either way. It gives us another year as well. Honestly, it's not something we're trying to do to make a huge revenue, but we do have to think about down the road, how do we do some replacements? And this is one of the funding sources that would be there. Plus, I think from the A&E committee, the question was, okay, if we collect this money, where does it go? Well, it goes back to the school's general fund, but we want to target it for replacement, lower the tax costs, as well as support students and programs. Katie will just have to help me not try to butcher that and make sure we're legal with the auditors.
The admissions was included as a funding source in our recent capital reserve.
Good.
When are we going to the electronic version of this?
We actually already started last year, especially with some sectionals. The hard part about not charging when you have a local is our constituents aren't that bad, but every now and then we can't necessarily keep out those that are not necessarily maybe here for the event, but for other things. So where we do have it, we will have to have an increased police presence when we have hometown rivalries and so forth. But we already do some of that.
Sitting with Warren on the athletic and extracurricular activities, I agree with him. I would hope for this year we could stay without charging. But in the future, to also look at fee structures that would allow for, I would say, capstone events, such as the home opener or homecoming or something like that, to have that at a minimum of a reduced cost, but even if something like that could be free, I think that would be to look at it from a compromise or a hybrid standpoint if fees need to be charged.
I think where I'm going with this, I mean, I understand our community just put a lot in for the capital improvement projects, but anybody in our community that goes to any of our neighboring districts, they're paying to go to the games, right? So our district residents are paying the other districts and supporting their funds, right? And so I feel like, you know, we need to, you know, maybe we pick, you know, a couple games where it's you know, free, open to the community to kind of try to encourage, but I feel like we need to start getting back into the fee, which we always did. I mean, we always had to pay to come in for basketball games and football games at the old stadium, and, you know, wrestling matches, we were always paying, you know, and so we're paying at every other school district. So I just feel like there needs to be some sort of equity around that.
I don't think that's a reason that we have to charge.
No, but we're paying those other districts to go there. It'd be nice to try to have some of the visiting schools start paying us too, right? To use our
Didn't all our grandmas tell us when we were growing up, if Johnny jumps off the bridge, you better follow
I
him?
know. That's just my opinion.
I understand that.
On that same vein, I'm wondering if there's a way to do adults over 18 pay, but students are free, to kind of bridge both worlds. Obviously, we wouldn't charge students and let adults in, that's not equitable. But I wonder if that's a way to bridge that gap, because it's parents from other districts that are coming to watch their students play. So is there a way to?
Or even, you know, and I think logistically it would be hard to do this, but, you know, of course those residents didn't have to pay, but visitors did, right?
Yeah.
So logistically, I think that's hard.
Right.
I was trying to think of what I was going to say, but it would be very difficult to say that if you bring a Horseheads ID or a Horseheads mailing address, you get it free and everybody else has to pay. That would be very cumbersome, although I do like the idea, but I would say I'd rather see the year free with the understanding that next year it's not a discussion we go to the event. I don't have a problem either way, it's just that I needed to make sure that you guys are comfortable with it, because we do get asked, are we going to have to charge? And when sectionals come, that's what's confusing, is because we don't charge anything all year long, and then they get hit with a $10 bill right off the bat at the gate, and they say, how come Horseheads gets none of that? The only thing we get at least is the concession, which we will get this year as well. So I don't have a problem, I just need to know what the board would like me to do for the coming year, because once I start fall, I kind of need to keep that premise for the rest of the year.
The other thing too is we charge for plays, right? So,
That's a royalty requirement, however, because we have to pay for that. And here's the other thing, we will be charging for the music home show. So I don't know how you draw the line, because if we don't, that's the only fundraiser for the marching band as well. So think about it, we can come back to it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll just, good points on both sides. I would say I'm certainly in favor of some kind of progressive scale, so I think, you know, students should be free. I think senior citizens should have a heavily discounted rate. I like the idea of maybe, you know, if there's a family that knows they're going to go to a lot of sporting events, they pay X amount, they have a pass for the year. We're not doing it to make money, right? You know, I mean, if we're going to charge, I like the idea of having Kevin's idea about, you know, opening night is free and whatever game is free. So, but I understand the points, and I do think, you know, you pay. It can be low enough that it's not a real impediment, and if we simply wait another year, you know, we'd have the same argument kind of next year about, like, we got to start at some point, right? But I can go with the consensus. I just think whenever we start to do it, we should try to implement some of those progressive aspects to make it as least burdensome as possible.
How about something like this for each season? And I'm just off the cuff. Say we have, we take the first 50% of the games in each season, and those are free. The second 50%, we go at 50% of our, for this year,
50% of our ticket price, but then it gets people ready for the sectionals. And that way you're building into it. And we do that for each season, and then next year, we shift to, we have our regular season price that we would have for each season. We can work on family tickets, senior citizen tickets, and then we can sort of do a little like, hey, this event opening night, one, there's no ticket to come one, come all, to try to build that momentum going into the year. Does that sound like sort of a reasonable compromise?
I think it's complex.
Oh, I did.
I think it's gonna confuse people.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, you know, I'd rather see it, you know, opening game for every sporting event in each season is free, and then after that, maybe this first year students are free and senior citizens are free, and everybody else pays a minimal amount, and then next year everybody pays. But I feel like you need to be consistent throughout the season. Or it's just going to confuse you. Because you're going to get people that are going to come and be like, oh, well, last week I paid $1, now you're asking me to pay $2. And, you know, I think that's just going to confuse people. My opinion.
What were your thoughts on pricing for year-long passes?
I would have to, honestly, Warren, I just remember when I was a principal, we did it, and what we did is we tried to look at it from the mind of a parent. Hey, I've got one kid, the parent that has 3 or 4 in high school at the same time. We tried to say, okay, if that one child was in 3 sports, okay, and say that it was football. Okay, there's 4 home games, basketball, there's 10 home games, baseball, there's 10 home games. That's 25 games, okay? If you did 25 times 5, that's 125, and then you did a percentage of that for the family season pass, but you 125 times, say, 4 people. So that's what you have to look at. We would have to do that calculation.
They used to do something here through Varsity H, I forget the details because it was several years ago, where if you gave a donation and then your name was in the program or whatever, you got 2 free passes that you can use
For the season.
For that season. They used to give out too. You just had to hold on to the passes.
Let's put it this way. The board doesn't need to do a lot of this work. I got some guidance. I got a wonderful AD back there who's going to look at me and say, thanks for handing that to me. I will work with him over the next couple of days to try to figure out something, try to include something that's possibility. If not, and I can't get the board, I can't do it by email, that's not appropriate. But what happens, once I get a feeling we're there by individual discussions, it's an administrative regulation, then I would put something in place. If not, I will just do free for the year. But give us a shot for it over the next couple of days, we'll see what we can come up with. Is that fair? Get started. There we go.
No question. Do we pay royalty fees for marching band?
I do not believe we pay royalty fees for marching band, but we do pay arrangement grouping fees for people to design our show that is a cost to the district. So,
We don't have to charge
right.
because of that.
We have to charge because that's their major fundraiser we set up. That's their only fundraiser for every field band usually does.
You're talking about the field band?
Yeah.
Solo performance, not halftime.
No, not the halftime. It's for their evening, and I think it's called Blossom this year. And what happens is we could have 10, 12 different bands coming of 180 kids apiece with 2 to 4 parents coming each. That would be 2,000 to 10,000 people here. And obviously you can see, and it's an all-day event, just food alone, you can raise a substantial amount of money.
But along those lines, that makes sense if it's their fundraiser. A lot of sports teams do fundraisers. If that's their fundraiser, then I can understand why you charge for it.
And I think that's what we're trying to do down the road, that the whole program gets the fundraiser at the gates, because one program shouldn't get all the funds and then the others. But I think that's how we try to approach the concession. So give us a little chance to try to work on that, and then we can make it an involved over time. So that one's good. ladies and gentlemen, because we have a construction project going on and we're in a global pandemic with supply issues, inflation that I think is peaking or hoping is peaking, one of the opportunities that the district has in their funding stream is the American Recovery funds that are out there, ARC funds, that we would probably consider at this point because of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning at our elementary schools, that we might ask the board and the community that we would amend our initial plan to consider using anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million of that funding to improve our enhancements and environments within those projects. I'm making that notice because I'm required to make that notice for the board to consider it 30 days from now or at your next meeting. That is up to the board. It allows the community to give any input or ask any questions in the meantime by calling the district office. Is that something that's okay with the board for us to move forward? Just a show of thumbs. Okay, we will move forward with that, and then we will bring a resolution to amend at the next meeting, provided any discussion or public comment, and then a vote of the board. Thank you. The last thing, well, I got a couple more, sorry. It's on. We know at the end of the year, we had some discussion about branding and imagery and changing the mascot's name. First and foremost, for those out there, there's been no discussion about changing Horseheads from the Horseheads Central School District or Horseheads Blue Raiders. That is not part of the discussion. The only discussion that we had was the fact that we have an imagery issue in regards to having several different images. First of all, no one true image that represents what a Blue Raider is. In addition, you heard from students that said maybe we don't want to be called the Raiders. I have to give homage to the individual student because Raiders have a defined definition that maybe it's less than what some people would like, but the history of the district has always been the Blue Raiders. So I probably asked two questions. I do not think the board has any interest in changing the overall mascot name from Horsehead Central School District Blue Raiders. Is that a fair assumption? Or discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Didn't you point out that the new football field end zones, well, at least one of them has Raiders
Right.
on it?
They're in blue letters, that's why it's Blue Raiders.
I don't know what happened in Elmira and when the change happened, but it's been unfortunate, I think, for a number of years for them to play their football games on a Blue Devil field.
Yeah.
And I don't know when they changed to the Express, but it's unfortunate.
Just so that you know, I mean, we could change out our end zones with no problem. It's really just cutting doing that, but there's a cost to it. But that was the design we put in, and Blue Raiders would make letters so small, so we went with the play on the word Raiders with blue letters, Blue Raiders, and we've done that in other places. But I think her position was that if you really think of what a Blue Raider is, should we really be supporting that? That was never the intent of anything that we were doing with the students or anything else, and I still don't believe that the board wishes to have that. I heard very much from the community that better not change. But the image was the issue. In 1983 was the last known image of a Blue Raider. And that you can see, and I'm giving a plug out there, I don't mean to, but the sugar and spice on their daily mats, it's right there. We have seen it from alumni that sent it in and said, see, we use this, why can't you use that? It's a little dated, but it is a picture of an American Revolutionary imagery of a soldier. It has nothing to do with General Sullivan. That's not the issue. What is a Blue Raider? We have the insignia, which is the swoosh cage. I think you've seen that on the field. That's our insignia. It says Horseheads. We have several different ones for Horseheads 2030 with the horse. We have Zeke. We have colored pictures of Zeke in animatronic. We have the picture of the horse that says Think Raider or Raider Think. And then we have several different types of outlines of horses. But the question is in branding, which is part of Horseheads 2030 and the board committed to, is what are we going to be known by? Whether it's a Letterman jacket, whether it's imagery on our buildings, whether it's imagery on our field. It was easy with the H because we didn't have really an image. do have the image of the horse that we showed at the board meeting. However, that is a trademark infringement of the Denver Broncos. So I think the board already said it cannot be that image. We should not violate trademark or registered trademarks or copyright laws. So the question is do you wish us to proceed or not have any image at all? And if we do proceed, we would bring back to the board a process to involve all people's thoughts on how to best represent what is a Horseheads Blue Raider. But before it goes out, the board would authorize the process. Any thoughts or comments or direction that you would provide? Mr. Adams.
I think at a minimum, the H with the swoop underneath it should be trademarked officially. Looking into that, I think going forward, beyond the logo itself, I don't know, how it breaks down if there's a mascot or what, but the H with the swoop, takes into consideration the entire district. As much as I think most readily used in sports, and it also encompasses 4-year-olds at 3K level as well. It's all of our district, and it should be protected and be protected by the district and its board and its admin team. And I don't think it can properly be protected without it being formally trademarked. So at a minimum, I know that wasn't what you asked, but I went tangent with it anyway.
I think that would all be part of whatever the board moves me in the direction.
I would like to see, in addition to the H that we have, but I would like to see an image that's something that can be consistently used across the entire district, across all our sports teams, all of the spirit wear that we get in the district. I mean, there's so much inconsistency right now. You go to all the local vendors that do printing for us, and everybody has a different version of what they think Horseheads is. And it particularly with all the work that we're doing to upgrade our facilities and enhance our academics, to have that strong imagery and brands in the community, I think would be really important, something that we can all rally around, something that does not provide any controversial issues, and just something that can be fun, right? And so I would like to see us go in that direction and have a brand for the district.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I just think in that process, which I reckon, as you say, will take place and stakeholder input will occur. So, I have faith that process will give rise to sort of all these different considerations. But I don't think we shouldn't start it with the notion that we have to determine what is a quote Blue Raider, right? We may be happy with just a non-infringing horse insignia, right? So it's just a matter of how it gets framed, because I think framing it in the context of what's a Blue Raider kind of, leads to consideration. And I thought the students that spoke about this made some very valid points, and I think, framing it up properly will help enable a discussion that looks at all sorts of options, but I agree on the need, to reach upon one and become consistent in its use.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the communication should be about when you think of a Horseheads Blue Raider, or what comes to mind for a Horseheads Blue Raider.
What best represents that?
What best represents a Horseheads Blue Raider?
And I think at this point, the cat's already out of the bag, so if we said, no, don't do anything with it, it kind of look foolish. So I would think this is an easy yes.
Others?
I concur. Looking for the word. It's a hard word to
Yeah, we need some more input from the stakeholders. I mean, I think if it was just up to us, I think we would make a good decision based on what we've gotten. But there are a lot of stakeholders that apparently feel strongly about this, and so.
And we would need to open this up to those stakeholders to submit.
Yeah.
That way, that's their input. Ultimately, the board is responsible for any final decision, but how we get there, that's what we will bring back the process to you probably in September
to try to look at, and then we'll refine it, and then once we do, I will set the AD and the high school principal and some of my other administrators to charge to bring it to fruition. I'm getting good at this delegation.
Yeah, Charles is getting a lot of work tonight.
Yeah. He just did a doctoral study program or something, so paying him back. Okay, thank you all for your guidance. I will
I
move
think this
forward.
would be
with-
fun.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of fun creativity.
NISBA. I just went to a wonderful leadership retreat, which would have been wonderful for our new members each year, and they're going to start doing it. It combines your mandated stuff as well as some veteran stuff that I would highly recommend people consider a couple days in the summer going to next year. I don't say that often about certain conferences, but this one kept your attention and gave a lot of different perspectives from PTAs, parents, school board members, superintendents, lawyers. We all love that. Sorry, guys. They said that, not me. But it was a very good training. One of the things we work on is Board of Education training throughout. We have the NISBA conference coming up. I know, Liz, you're going, Kevin, Christine, you're going. I need to know by this Friday. No, because Terry and Emily won't be back until by next Wednesday, because we've got to make sure we have registrations and rooms. If anybody else wishes to go. If we can, we'll make sure in the update, the dates are again there. It's in October, it's right after our Board of Education meeting. In addition, there are things that you get every now and then in your email. When somebody reaches out, Christine had already talked to me about board officers training. One of the things I've got to ask is whether it's open to all members, because sometimes they say it, but it's focused on president or vice president. I'm supposed to get that information, but if anybody's interested in that, I know Kevin has contacted me as well. Please let me know no later than next Wednesday as well. So Wednesday for both the NISBA conference and any training. Normally what happens is if somebody likes to, I always bring it back to the next board meeting and ask if anybody else wants to, because the board can say, yes, you can go, or no, you can't, because it is a funding expenditure. So we don't do that for the conference and the legislative. We just ask and people go, because I attend those all the time. Capital construction, we are in the home stretch. Ladies and gentlemen, the building's going to be put together, but we've still got a lot of construction going on, especially here at the high school. We are unable to finish all the floors, but they're trying to work, and they're going to have to work over the course of the next year. But afterwards, I got Mr. Coughlin back there as well. Right after we get through with this board meeting, and I can be quiet, we will, anybody that wants to take a walk with us, we'll walk through here. It is dirty, but they are making miracles, and I know his team. I was already at the middle school today. It's looking shiny and bright. You won't see that here yet. But I know Mr. Coughlin will try to make it the best. But you will start to see ceilings and other things, the front entryway open up, so we want to open that up to you. Our opening day for staff is 8:30 at 8 a.m. It will be virtual because we're putting our staff out because they were gracious enough to come and say we'll come in 2 days before Labor Day to start on Labor Day. Not Labor Day, sorry. The day after Labor Day. They show up on Labor Day, sorry. But they will start up. Every one of our kids will be going to school bright and early on that Tuesday after that weekend. But our staff are coming in. We're providing them an extra opportunity of the day with pay to get ready because we've been able to do that with some new training that's going on that Thursday. But we also want to make sure they maximize the time in their rooms, especially with the amount of construction going on, and especially to get ready for a return to as much normal as possible. So that you know our safety plan, as far as I'm concerned, our safety plan is about being open. Unless we are directed or dictated by the New York State Department of Health or New York State government, we are fully open, we are fully back, there are no restrictions except for health and hygiene requirements as it relates to COVID-19, and we will put those out as I know Sue does regularly. Big thing is if you're sick, please do not come to school. And when you're feeling better, make sure you're fever-free for 48 to 72 hours, and then come on back. If you want to wear a mask, if you don't want to wear a mask, that's a person's individual choice, and we will respect that. And then if it's COVID related, you just have to follow the timeline. So other than that, we are open. Our safety plan is going down and just stating that we are open, and the COVID-19 assistance that we would ask from everybody to try to ensure health and safe environment. Is the board happy for that, I hope? That's good. So that's opening day. We do have new teacher orientation Monday, 8 o'clock. It's not 8:30, I found out, because I'm driving back in, so please forgive me if I get stuck on the road for my son's golf tournament that he qualified for. I'm very proud of him, but I'm planning on being here now at 8 o'clock from Western New York. To be here bright and shiny at 8 o'clock. If you would like, please, you're more than welcome. We are at the middle school, intermediate school. There will be refreshments. I know Christine's trying to be there as well. She will make opening statements just like I will, or Tony will run it until I get back in case a police officer pulls me over. So I'm hoping that they can have a date time again. That is Monday, the 22nd at 8 a.m. middle school, intermediate school.
Cafeteria.
Cafeteria. Is it cafeteria?
Please use the entrance if you, excuse me, if you plan on attending the field house entrance. That little ramp that goes up the cafeteria, that'll be your entrance.
Will everybody be able to park in that back for the number of people coming?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
August
August.
26th, Monday, sorry. I want my new staff here before September, that's for sure. I probably made a mistake on that, I'm talking too fast. So, I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything. Thank you for your time. We've had a lot to discuss, but a lot of things to get ready for the new year. I hope you all can join us a little so that we can show you some of the things that are happening. You'll say, wow.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Moving on to item 6, board report. We do not have an audit committee or policy committee report, and I was going to talk about the NISBA conference and any courses, and Dr. Douglas already did that. So I have nothing new. I am looking forward to the new teacher opening. I'm hopeful that I will be there on Monday, and then also the staff opening day. I'm really excited about as well. So looking forward to a great start of the year. I'm sure we have a lot of excitement in the community, and the kids are ready to come back to school, right? All right, moving on to item 7, our finance items for action. We have 7.02 through 7.12. One change in the agenda is the removal of 7.05. So we'll be voting on all the items except for 7.05. Can I have a motion, please? So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on any of these? Warren?
I have a couple. So on 702, I believe it's page 14 after the cover letter, or the second to the last page of transfers. It says the money is to be used for retiree health care benefits, and since I get health care benefits from the district, how do I?
You should recuse yourself.
So that's just a transfer to cover, we overexpended in that line, so moving money to cover it is not specific to any particular plan or anything like that. But
Because it is tied to retiree benefits, and Mr. Cochran has earlier said that he has, that's the real conflict he has.
Yep, I just
It would
wanted to
be
be
wise
clear
for
on
you to
what it was.
recuse yourself. I do need 5 votes on that one transfer to make sure that it passes.
Well, my other question was, I didn't see numbers on the pages, so how do I identify which one am I, are they,
It's all
You
inclusive.
would just abstain from all of 7.02.
oh, okay. So that, I guess, would answer my second question. I'm not sure what absence accruals are.
Yep, that's an accounting entry that's done for retirees as of June 30th that have sick time that's being credited to their account.
Okay, so it's,
Specific to the retirees as of June 30th, 22 or shortly thereafter.
okay, so that's another vocabulary word for use of
Just-
sick days.
Yep, that gets held on account for future payments.
Okay. And then on 711, the Tyler Technology Center, could you just talk about that so I know what it is?
Yeah, it's really, all we're trying to accomplish is buying 11 additional tablets for our buses. We did the whole initiative where we bought the tablets to start having the GPS and the new routing software. All we want to do is buy 11 more tablets so we have some spares in the event that something breaks or isn't working. We have some readily available. In order to buy these 11 more, they require a contractual amendment.
Okay, thank you. So, this means I'm abstaining, I guess, on 7.02 in its entirety.
Okay.
Warren, I can offer you, because I've done the official count of pages, there are 16 pages. If you would like to abstain only on page 15 of that, you are welcome to state that because it's very identifiable.
I can do that, that's fine.
So
Whatever works.
his vote will not be on page 15, but he can vote for the rest of the
Okay.
event. And from now on, if we can have them numbered, that'll make it easier, just in case we run into this every day.
Yes, year end gets a little
Yeah,
bulky.
thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do that because I'm gonna have to abstain on
What page?
9.
Let me count, make
Sure.
sure.
Print shop is, I assume that's the BOSI's print
Page
shop.
1, page
As a BOSI's employee, I would like to abstain on any BOSI's expenditures before the
page 7,
cut it close to the edge
page 9. Page 9 is print shop.
tonight. I'm gonna have to abstain on that page.
So Doug Johnson will abstain on this only, page 9. Yeah, I'm steady. That's good.
That's good.
Town legislative.
Oh, goodness.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
Yes.
Any other-
I'm just under trying to.
Any other questions or comments on anything from 7.02 through 7.12?
I have one. 7.06, the athletic training agreements. I noticed that the way that the service to be provided is quantified is in a total number of hours. It's essentially a bank of 500 hours that we will draw from. I'm just curious if, do we anticipate that that will be sufficient to cover the needs throughout the year? And with, is that where's the 500 come from?
One of the things, and I'll let Charles answer as well, but it just may suffice, is that remember, we have an agreement with Arnott, and we also are going to have an agreement with Guthrie, so we can play between the two agreements.
Right, and this is the Arnott one. I mean, that was part of my question, because I recall the Guthrie, so then I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, we're buying 500 hours worth of services. How does that, where are we getting that number from? Are we anticipating that's half and they're going to cover half, or what? So that's the genesis of my question.
We're trying to use both of them more than we have in the past throughout the whole year and to cover more than what we've covered. Is that pretty much correct?
Yeah, right now Guthrie is struggling to hire someone, so Arnett is our person, but I just did the hours for the entire fall. And it was 152 and a half hours, and that covers all necessary games and practices and office hours 3
Okay.
times a week. So plenty of hours, plenty of hours there. We should.
Yeah, that's good. And that was right. And if we were for some reason going to bump up against that, I think obviously it's important. We have a agreement, so we can always extend that and try to add hours.
Yes.
That'd be good. Okay. And then, can I ask another question just while my mic is on? It's probably for Katie, 7.07, the tax warrant resolution and legal notice. I noticed in the resolution, we're applying $1 million of the unencumbered fund balance at the end of the past fiscal year to reduce the tax levy. Does that in any way change sort of the tax cap calculation or any of those elements? Because, that, all those come together to reach sort of like the allowable levy, and then we're essentially reducing it. I just wonder how that works.
Right, so the fund balance that we use in our budget is not part of the tax cap calculation. It's just an additional resource we have to balance the budget. So we're saying we're going to put forth $1 million of our unassigned fund balance versus levying additional.
So it's basically like $1 million less than we're going to go ask the community to pay.
Right, we kind of ponied up our own resources.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
It's just, it is a trick in the wording. We show it every year in the budget, but we have to recognize it that way in the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, more.
I had a question on the sports contract. I'm just curious to explain, for the fee structure, boys and girls basketball gets a lower fee than all of the other sports. Why would that be?
The fees are set by Arnett. They set the fees. I don't know. Probably because they're back to back. There's two of them in there. I'm not sure exactly how they determine those fees.
It is interesting. I'd like to know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Arnett
I would
set
think they charge the same fee no matter what.
well, the hope is we don't pay any of those fees anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how they set those. If we do pay the fees, I'll be in big trouble.
Maybe it's based on how many participants there are?
It might
It's
be.
possible. Yeah, it's
And
possible.
you can play at any given time?
Yeah, it's possible.
Each one of the larger ones, I mean, if you look at it, football's 180,
Right.
the others are about 135, and the lower ones are like 115.
It could be based on risk.
Risk,
Well,
risk and number of potential
And if
issues.
it's the lowest fee, I don't want to poke it and have them increase the fee higher.
Right.
I know, very good.
But we'll still ask the question at this
But I would
point.
assume based on football being the highest and looking at some of the other
Well, that
sports,
makes sense
it
to
could be
me.
based on their assessment of risk in the sports.
That's safe.
Seems like safe.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor of 7.02 through 7.12 minus 7.05
With the noted,
with the noted 7.02, page 15, abstain with Warren, and 7.02, page 9, abstention with Doug. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And any additional abstentions?
I have to say, Ms. Dale, you sounded like a seasoned professional over there.
You're testing me with all
That
these,
was
you know,
really,
page
really
numbers
good.
and everything. Well, you know, when we have 4 members missing, it gets me a little nervous. All right, item 8 are personnel items for action. We have 8.02 through 8.03. Can I have a motion, please? So moved. Any comments or questions on these? Warren?
I don't know if this can be stated in public session because I don't know if I'm going to end up affected by that Humana Medicare program.
You are not at this point because it's voluntary for the unit that you were in.
Okay, just making sure. I'll abstain anyway, just, oh, can I?
Well, we need 5 yeses, it's a contract
1,
contract.
2, 3, okay, we're still good, right?
I'll hang
More abstention humor tonight. Great.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of 8.02 and 8.03, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? We have Warren on 8.03. Right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry.
It worked.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 9 are miscellaneous items for action. We have 9.02 through 9.07. Have a motion?
So moved.
Any comments or questions? Or,
I don't know, maybe Mike, could you talk about the easement on the NYSEG? And just, so, I mean, I looked at the picture, but
It's pretty common. Some of the mechanical MEP and improvements we done on the building, and it required an upgrade for the power. The transformer actually belongs to NYSEG. All right, so we're going to put it on our property. We're giving an easement to that area we're going to put on there. We did it at Sing Sing. When we widened the road, we allowed the poles to come onto our property that had to go over. So it's more of a formality, Warren. It's definitely a good thing and some part of the project, but it's a formality for them to put their equipment on there. And then they'll own from that equipment to the pole, and we own from that equipment over.
So if I read the picture accurately, the concrete pad is gonna be poured somewhere near the sidewalk by Center Street? Is that where it's going?
No, it's actually gonna be over by the gas house.
You know the big grass field by Center Street, right out in front of the main office? In the corner of our property, right there, close to where the dumpsters were?
Yeah.
That's where it would be, that gas house dumpster.
Okay.
I think what you might have seen when you thought out by the sidewalk was where it connects to, because it shows their one end of their property from the pole coming. But it's a 10 by 10 pad, piece of concrete with a transformer. In some instances you own it and sometimes you don't, but this is pretty common.
Okay.
This is a nice major upgrade, that nice thing is up this one.
Yeah, original stuff we're even finding in the building that's been upgraded, very old for electrical components. We needed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, well, I'm not gonna go on this, for 9.04 with the varsity swim.
Sure.
What is the process for chaperoning? Is there a district process? I apologize if this is policy, I should know, but we don't.
Chaperoning is required by the coaches, depending on the number. If it's outside the regular team, then we look at it. But for the most part, the coaches go, and that is the program. That is why, and I know the athletic office knows, the coaches have to submit these requests 120 days in advance of 80, and submit it in 90. There's a little kerfuffle between newness and so forth. So we're there. We try not to ever do away, but we also know that most teams now know it. It's like I would even suggest that the baseball and softball team are watching, please get your trip to Myrtle Beach now so you can start fundraising. That's the purpose of it. How's that? I'm really on a roll for athletics.
He's in your line of vision, I think that's.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop coming to these.
Stay over there. Yes.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of 9.02 through 9.07, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, we don't have any policies to review tonight, so we'll move on to item 12, our board member comments. Anybody has anything they'd like to share? Kevin?
This is directed to Dr. Douglas for the fee schedule for the public use. I see in section 2 you have Horseheads Youth Bureau. I would ask that the Chemung County Youth Bureau also be added to that list as well.
Very good. I can't see in front of me. Oh.
And I make that recommendation fully admitting that I have a huge conflict of interest too, but I would still recommend it nonetheless.
We will have to look at that because what happens is in the procedures and fees, it has to be 75% Horseheads individuals. When it encompasses the whole county, it poses some weaknesses, but we'll look at it and see if there's anything.
Any other comments?
I did have one question based on fees. The $200 for a pool party, is that what, that seems like a lot, but I could be crazy.
No, that's what we've had as a, people like that.
Okay. And is that like an hour, 2 hour?
Right?
It varies on it. When they come in the lifeguard, it's a couple hours and they have some time, and then we normally have a little space off to the side. Tougher sometimes on some of the, we're working on that with Charles, another one, bring athletics into it, to ease on that. I have a request right now for it, just came in.
It is a very popular request that we started, probably 4 or 5 years ago. We started doing it and then COVID shut it down and it's coming back. The hard part is nobody's been being trained as lifeguards. So anybody that's being trained as lifeguards that are out there that are interested, please contact our HR department and put in an application. We are interested in hiring lifeguards. Always.
Just as a follow-up to that, sorry to spur the question, but I sometimes get asked, with the start of the school year, will we be resuming that like early morning community swim?
Lifeguards are the problem.
So is it up in the air? I mean, what's the...
We tried.
No.
We actually just got, so we hired someone who is lifeguard certified, so it's we haven't talked about it.
It's not up in the air, and I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna make it happen when it gets going. But I'm gonna probably do can we just get school open for a few days and get through the, couple, a little bit even on the weather.
We asked for the second week of, at least till the end of the second week of September.
That parking and that flow, so, it's in the works.
Absolutely not, no, I need to.
And it normally don't come back.
I hear the same
about
thing
November.
constantly.
5:30 on September.
I will be there on Labor Day when school opens. No, I mean,
We have full
I think-
anticipation to bring it in.
that whatever works makes good sense. I just think, we can communicate that on the website or something, that way people know. That's the only, and,
We get staff back and we talking to Jared, working the details.
yeah, so it's known, and then, will the district, sorry, not the district, the board committees, with the last meeting, we were notified which ones are on, and then will they start in September? I haven't seen anything.
The dates, my administrative assistant just got married, is on her honeymoon. My new administrative assistant that you appointed tonight will be starting when she gets back from her vacation. So they will start scheduling those meetings out because we just put out the year-long meeting dates out. So you'll see those in the update. Plus, we also have to develop full memberships for some of those committees because we still have people on it, but the dates are set now.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll be seeing them shortly.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? All right.
One last thing, just as people know, please, before you leave tonight, the letter that we had talked about earlier to Christine, anything on goals, to me before you leave, and hand in the papers for your ticket out of here, and then we'll gather right over there with Mr. Coghlan for anybody who wants to take a little hike.
And she was like waving me down.
Oh, you gotta sign.
But yes, everybody needs to sign the text form. So please come here when you hand me your letter, you can sign.
Thank you.
All right. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. All right, great.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the August 17th Board of Education meeting for the Horseshoe Central School District. Our next meeting, it will be posted on our website, Instagram, and Twitter. Please look at that. I think it's roughly around September 15th or 16th, right in there. I just haven't seen it. So please look for the announcements to come. Thank you.